go ahead and do a little piece on Jenjin's story about mortal sin. I was asked a question today about that, so I figured I would address it. So when I was 7, I asked her about why she always prayed for everything and why, or what was the origin of her prayers? Why did you do that? So what she described to me as her traditional lore was that in very ancient times, and she didn't give a date because, well, I think they calculate time a little differently than we do. I think it's more astronomical than what we currently use. So, in ancient times when the planet was far larger, I would assume it was during the time of when our planet was the size of Jupiter, Tiamat, that I put it maybe, what, 3 or 4 billion years ago, supposedly. And the story goes as this. She claimed that there were a pair of brothers. Sound familiar? Not the same story, though. She claimed there were a pair of brothers that were Gugwe, and that one became jealous of the other concerning his hunting prowess. The younger brother became jealous of the older brother, according to her myth, or lore, I should say. And because the elder brother was very well renowned, very well known, and very well respected for his ability to hunt and track animals of the time, the younger brother became so jealous that he killed his elder brother. He cracked his skull open, and he supposedly ate his elder brother's pituitary gland, which caused disruption in reality, is the way Jenjin explained it. And meaning that there was an issue within the fabric of time and space, potentially, because she said that the hallucination that was caused by this giant individual uh, eating the pituitary gland of his brother ripped the planet apart. It might be a remembrance of when we were hit by another planetoid, Marduk or whatever it was called. So that's a potential explanation historically for it, or at least maybe geologically for it. Regardless, she claimed that when the younger brother ate the pituitary gland, he fell into a trance, and that trance split our planet apart in pieces. She also claimed that the pieces floated off into space. And the way the planet was recovered, supposedly, was that all of the medicine people that were alive at the time, from all the different tribes that were on the little pieces of land that were floating in space, began to chant and pray, and they pulled the planet back together, supposedly. Those pieces that had drifted too far away, uh, what she described were like rafts or logs being used to supposedly pull the planet back together, as if they were oaring through space somehow. Most likely it's an explanation of a prophetic dream or dream state of some sort. I'm not really sure, but these are the things that she talked about. So she claimed that the pieces that could be recovered were recovered, and that they had been brought back together by the medicine people that were praying and pulling the pieces back together, and also physically working to pull the planet supposedly back together. So after that point, once the planet was reformed, so to speak, the Gugwe were seen as an enemy species of humanity because of the nature of the sin. Eating the flesh of another became a mortal sin in the eyes of the Oma and a good majority of cryptids. Andy, this is not a political channel. This is the Native American educational channel. So, yeah, good morning, Homo. Home, I mean. Excuse me, let me put my glasses on. Homo erectus? What? I know you children like to have fun with this. But do you realize how disrespectful you are? Well, eating a pituitary gland is actually probably a far greater sin than any kind of sexual sin you could have. So anyway, this is actually done for my subscribers, and if you're not a subscriber, I really don't care about you. So, when the planet was put back together, the Gogwe became the enemy of all known cryptids. So, that being said, the Gogwe have remained as such. They're always seen as cannibals, they're always seen as red bone people, they're always seen as being the origin of the plight of humanity and why we are a pitiful creature. Now, the interesting thing about this is the supposed brain is petrified on the Hopi Indian Reservation. I confirmed that through Mr. Ravenbreast, a medicine person of the Hopi Nation. The rock that it has now become looks like a brain without a skull casing to it, and is approximately 12 feet across, 15 feet long, and roughly waist height. And from the descriptions that he gave me, it looked like it had been placed in some sort of petrification pool, which is exactly what Jenjin described. Jenjin described that once the brother had eaten the pituitary gland, he laid the brain in a close-by water reservoir of them, which was probably some sort of a mineral pond, because, well, you know, the remnants of it are still in America. So, with well, yeah, Andy, 30,000 years ago, it was a flat Earth with ice walls on either side. It was called the Coffee Belt. It was during the end of the 120,000-year-old ice age. So anyway, the story that Jinjin described is probably incredibly ancient, and it did definitely have some physical evidence, supposedly, especially if what the Hopi Indians say is correct. It's interesting to think about because, well, one myths have like petrified rock as evidence. So anyway, as she described, the the world was pulled back together. The pieces were uh, psychically stitched back together, kind of from what she was describing, and it went on forward from there. So, traditional lore. You never know exactly what you're going to get with it, and you may not be able to time place it because some lore is so ancient it doesn't really have a time reference left. That and, you know, writing really doesn't survive. So, without it being carved in stone, other than the supposed petrified brain on the Hopi Indian Reservation, it's southern end of the Painted Valley, if I remember correctly from what Mr. Ravenbreast spoke of. Uh, there's at least that. Um, so, uh, she really didn't describe more details than basically an overview of the myth itself, and that they don't believe in cannibalism, they don't believe in eating pituitary glands, they don't believe in eating brain material. They believe in praying for the creatures that they do eat because they would like them to reincarnate as a higher life form instead of a food source. So that was her description of her origin myth of mortal sin. Now, in regards to Bear Woman's Kana and the concept of how much, that particular opinion, Kana, may suggest not just trade. It may actually suggest something more akin to gathering bedding, gathering bedding materials for the winter. And the reason why I say that is because the one leaf at the bottom of the kana uh, couldn't be translated in any way, shape, or form in relation to the kana at hand. That being said, that particular leaf belongs to a local tree of the area. And very near to where I found the kana, the bush bushes in that area were completely stripped of leaves, so potentially how much was not referring to price of a thing, but potentially how much bedding was to be gathered by a particular cryptid, a bear person. So those are some tidbits for those of you who are interested, and I figured I'd give you just a brief on it. Wasn't planning on spending too much time on this, so I just wanted to answer the individual's question in a way that was timely. Well, y'all have a good morning, have a great time, and good night.